The Rugby World Cup has changed. In 2027, it will expand to 24 teams spread across 6 pools of 4 for the very first time. The new structure not only necessitates the introduction of a round of 16 for the first time, but also a complete change to how teams qualify for the World Cup. The new qualification criteria will see the top 12 teams from the last World Cup, along with 4 teams from Rugby Europe, 3 teams from the Pacific, 1 via Pacific South America playoff, and 1 from Africa, South America, and Asia, respectively. The final spot will be decided by a final qualification tournament consisting of the teams who fall just short. This will mean that we see nations play in the global showpiece who have never been there before. Amongst the countries vying for the final spot will be the likes of the Netherlands, Brazil, Kenya, and by far the most likely to make their World Cup debut is the Asian Union of Hong Kong, China. In this video, we'll tell the story of this little-known rugby nation, how they're looking to qualify for the World Cup on merit, and why some people are unhappy about it. Without a doubt, the biggest impact of World Rugby's new World Cup qualification criteria is the decision to award an automatic place to Asia. By far the most likely beneficiaries of this decision is Hong Kong, China. Hong Kong is one of the most densely populated places in the world, with 7.4 million people squeezed onto a landmass of just over 1,100 square kilometres. Now under the jurisdiction of China, Hong Kong was a British colony until 1997, and as such, a large proportion of the population has at least some form of British ancestry. It is here that rugby union has its roots in Hong Kong, as for the first few decades of its existence, the Hong Kong national side was made up entirely of British expats. A quick glance at the team sheet will tell you that this legacy is still very much a part of the team's identity. In fact, the over-reliance on expats qualifying on residency is something that Hong Kong management confronted in 2019.
We've relied on the 3-year residency rule for a number of years. But at the same time, we do have a significant number of our professionals across 7s and 15s that are homegrown talent, home-based players. So for us, it's about expanding that group now, not relying on the 3-year imports to really ensure our throughput from our under-20s and age group beneath the under-20s are as robust as possible.
Hong Kong has a lot of expats coming in who come in when they're more mature players. So having now a 5-year rule is definitely going to mean that we don't have as many players who are going to be continuing their rugby through eligibility.
After a century of relative obscurity, Hong Kong began making a concerted effort to become a competitive rugby nation in the early 2010s. Of course, Hong Kong is already synonymous with Rugby Sevens, as they host arguably the most prestigious round of the global circuit. The 15s, though, has been a longer-term project, with the men's team missing out on the last 3 World Cups in the repechage. But now Hong Kong have won the last 5 Rugby Asia titles, every single one since Japan stopped competing, and they've been the highest-ranked Asian side outside of Japan since 2014. This year, they won all 3 of their games in the Asian Rugby Championship and scored at least 50 points in each fixture. It would be a huge shock if they did not maintain that level of performance until 2025, the year where World Cup qualification is sealed. It is not only in Asia that Hong Kong have been impressing, with their recent tour of South America yielding a huge win over Paraguay, a tight victory over fellow 2027 hopefuls Brazil, and a narrow defeat against 2023 World Cup debutants Chile. In November 2024, they look set to host Belgium, Germany, Zimbabwe, Uganda and Kenya in a 16 tournament that, based on current world rankings, they would expect to win. The progress they have made is hardly surprising given that Hong Kong has had significant investment into rugby that now sees a fully professional domestic programme. In an interview in 2016, former head coach Lee Jones explained what he felt was the turning point for Hong Kong rugby, saying, quote, "We did reasonably well at the last World Cup, qualifying for the repechage. I believe the powers that be thought, with some investment and the right people in situ, we could actually qualify for the World Cup." Jones went on to explain how Hong Kong's geography actually plays to the national team's favour. It means that the players can come in for national team training Monday to Friday, but go back to their local clubs to play rugby at the weekends. Jones's tenure was mostly spent on strength and conditioning with stringent gym routines. He said that he found it took about 18 months to get the players up to the standard required to play national rugby. There are also green shoots further down the structure. Their under-20s team competes in the World Under-20s Trophy alongside several other established nations, whilst their club sides have also played exhibition matches against Super Rugby teams. Meanwhile, their women's team have qualified for the WXV3 tournament and will play alongside the likes of Spain, Samoa and Fiji later on this year. Whilst this level of performance is unlikely to be keeping Razzie Erasmus awake at night, it does suggest that Hong Kong's World Cup spot would be merited. After all, they are currently ranked in the top 24 nations in the world.
As to why World Rugby has awarded Asia this automatic spot, it seems that they have identified Asia as a key market for the growth of the game.
You will see clues to this if you visit World Rugby's official YouTube channel, where you will find not one but 2 videos about Hong Kong rugby, as well as a half-hour long documentary on the World Rugby-owned Rugby Pass channel. Going even further back to 2013, Hong Kong even hosted a British and Irish Lions game, which was arranged by their then sponsor, Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation.
Now it could be that World Rugby see Hong Kong as a backdoor entrance to the Chinese market. China has the largest population of any country in the world and the second largest GDP, so you can see why World Rugby would want to go there.
But there are those who are unhappy at Hong Kong's prospective inclusion. Some feel that Asia has been unfairly awarded an automatic spot over South America, whose rugby scene is blossoming, providing 3 teams to the 2023 World Cup.
Other sports have also struggled with the political baggage that comes with Hong Kong and its difficult relationship with Beijing.
The Chinese government has certainly been very quick to ensure that people will refer to the team as Hong Kong China, rather than simply Hong Kong. Meanwhile, some rugby fans are against the concept of a 24-team World Cup altogether, pointing to the uncompetitive games and heavily one-sided scorelines that blight the current World Cup group stages as evidence that inviting yet more weaker teams to the event would harm the product.
But nobody wants to see that kind of scoreline, especially in a World Cup. I don't see how it benefits the tournament. But I just feel like it's a sad sight to see in a World Cup when teams are scoring that many points against others. I just don't. It was difficult to watch, I think, at times. I don't like those scores. Some people that really enjoy those high-scoring games where one side is just completely dominating the other. I want to see a competitive game.
One thing that became very clear during the research for this video was just how much money is behind Hong Kong rugby. It is definitely something that sets them apart from their competitors. I mean, their YouTube channel on its own looks like it's had more money spent on it than the WRU spend on the Welsh regions. And unlike, say, Chile or Canada, Hong Kong actually win more than half of their games.
So it seems then that the question is not will Hong Kong China be at the next World Cup, but rather how competitive will they be when they get there. But what do you think? Would you be excited to see Hong Kong at the Rugby World Cup? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.
Ima.